What does skill-based career mapping look like? So over a year ago, we posted a video on skill-based career pathways and understanding how you can disaggregate a job into its components of skills and experience to understand how that can be translated to other industries and occupations in sometimes non-intuitive ways. Today, what I want to do is build off of that and take a real practical example using real-time jobs data to say, what does that look like? So starting with what you see on the screen, I'm just starting with real-time job demand for the month of July in Mecklenburg County. You can see we had over 98,000 job postings, and I'll scroll through this pretty quick, but if you want to stop and see anything in more detail, feel free to pause the video. You can see the location, you can see some of the sample postings, the posting trend over time in our local area, breakdown by education for those 98,000 jobs, the top companies that are hiring, what that looks like based on our cities and towns. And I'll go ahead and pause here those top occupations. So this is one thing I do want to start with, which is what are those top occupations in Charlotte? And so you can see software developer, computer occupations, registered nurses, sales representatives, managers, and customer service representatives as some of those top occupations. And I'll keep going here to get to the skills portion, because this is what I really want to talk about, which is what are those top skills in demand across all jobs? And so across all 98,000 jobs for the month of July, the skill that was most in demand was marketing. Just having the ability to understand marketing, and again, that's a very nuanced skill. It can mean a lot of different things, but that was the top skill in demand. And so what I want to do now is look at these skills. We got marketing, agile methodology, finance, and look at how do you navigate your career path knowing these top skills in demand. And so the next thing I'm going to do is let's go ahead and filter this job posting list by entry-level occupations. If you're someone that's just starting out, what occupations are actually available and accessible to you? Because not every job that requires a marketing skill or an agile skill or a finance skill is going to be someplace that you can start. So how do you actually create a career pathway? And so you can see by filtering that to just what are those jobs that require at most a high school level equivalency and 0 to 3 years of experience, we went from 98,000 to just under 10,000 jobs. You can see the breakdown on salary, the wage trend, again, location here. I'm going to focus in on what are those top occupations. So now we get to the point of what are those top occupations for someone with a high school equivalency and limited experience. The top occupation we see here is a customer service representative. And again, we saw that even on the previous overall job posting board where customer service representative is one of those top occupations. And so if we zoom into what is a customer service representative, what does that look like from a skills perspective? So this is something where you say, okay, that's an occupation you can get to start your career. Well, what skills are you developing? Where are there potential transferability of skills that you bring to the role, skills that you'll develop in a role? Because that's the other part of this, which is roles will develop skills for individuals. So even if you don't come in with every skill to do a role, over time, through experience, you will learn and grow into the most utilized skills for that role. And so you can see the breakdown of this position, the average hourly earnings, the education breakdown. And this is what I really want to focus on here, which is what are those top compatible occupations? This is what we're talking about, which is you'll see insurance claims and processing clerks is 97% compatible with a customer service representative. And if you're someone that's a CSR, maybe you're in the hospitality industry, maybe you're not thinking about going into the insurance industry. But again, those skills that you're bringing to that role are transferable across industries. Again, bill and account collectors, correspondence clerks. So you can see this transferability of skills across various different occupations. And so what I'm going to do now is we'll zoom in here. And I've already pulled this out a little bit to zoom into that marketing skill specifically. One of those other jobs that we saw on the original top jobs in Charlotte was a sales representative. And that is also one of those jobs that's requiring that marketing skill. And so here we can see this sales representative, a CSR, if I go back, that had an average salary of about $20 an hour. And if we go to a sales representative, that's a significant pay increase where their median hourly earnings are $33 an hour. And so let's go ahead and compare these two occupations. Again, if you're looking at a specific skill like marketing, how do you go from an entry-level role as a CSR to a sales rep, and then what does that look like over time? And so here's what I've got here is just, again, those top occupations that require that marketing skill, just to show that for that marketing skill, here are some of those top occupations, sales representative being one of them, market analyst, and marketing manager. So we kind of have an idea of if we're going in this marketing sphere of a skill-based career pathway, these are some of the types of occupations we're going to want to look at. And like I mentioned, I had already selected that sales rep occupation. So when we look at, let me go ahead and jump in here. Let me click in here to zoom in on that comparison between a CSR and a sales rep. And so you see they're 91% compatible, but when we zoom in, we can see the sales representatives start to require a little bit more education. So while customer service representatives are predominantly high school level, you see this is closer to 50-50. They're requiring more of a bachelor's education for a sales representative type position. You see it's about 30% require a bachelor's. And again, I highlighted that wage increase before for this occupation, so I won't spend too much time on that. But what I really want to focus on is this chart right here. So this is the skills gap between our starting occupation as a CSR and our target occupation as a sales rep. And so you can see that those customer service skills those are one of the most in-demand skills even for a sales rep. And there's a lot of alignment there. That's why we've got a high compatibility index, because those skills are very transferable into this role. But what you'll see is that sales and marketing. That is one of those skills that there is a big gap between being a CSR and having good customer service, and then taking that to the next level and having good sales and marketing skills. So that's one of those skills that you'd want to focus in on and train and hone in order to make the move between being a CSR and being a sales rep. You can see some of the other skills that are also highest on the skills gap here is transportation. Again, CSR, it's usually at a fixed location, maybe even work from home, whereas sales reps might be out traveling a lot. So that's another one. And then administration and management, just having the overall oversight and being able to manage office type skills. So here's what you can kind of get a feel. This will start to give you an individual development plan to really say, if you're in a given role, what are those gaps and skills that you need to work on in order to move to one of those other in-demand roles that might be the type of skill that you're looking to apply and have the prevalence of roles and salary that you'd be looking for in your career progression. And so the next thing, like I said here, that I wanted to look at is the overall breakdown of, after you move into that sales rep type role, what does continued career progression look like? So you've really honed that marketing skill. So again, you can see overall jobs in Charlotte that demand that marketing skill. The top jobs are sales representatives, market research analysts, and marketing managers. And so what I wanted to do now is looking at that marketing manager role and comparing it to the sales representatives. And so again, you can see this is the breakdown for sales representatives. You can see the top compatible occupations for sales rep. Actually, customer service representatives is the top compatible occupation. So that's going backwards. That's not actually career progression, but again, we mapped it out the other way to say it's reasonable to go from a CSR role to a sales rep type role. But again, good to see that here. And you can see the top knowledge, skills, and abilities that are requested for this type of a role. And what I wanted to do again is compare specifically the marketing manager role to the sales representative role. So those were two of the top in-demand occupations for the marketing skill. And you'll see that is not quite as compatible as the CSR role was with the sales rep role. You'll see marketing managers, that compatibility index is down at an 80 here. So still fairly compatible, but again, it represents more of a substantial career progression, more experience over time, potentially another role in between those two. So again, potentially some of these roles here that we will see maybe an intermediary role in between being a sales rep and being a marketing manager. But we'll go ahead and zoom into that comparison. And so what you can see here is this is this one. So this is the comparison between sales reps and marketing managers. And you'll see this is where, at CSR, we were heavily high school equivalency. For marketing managers, we're almost exclusively at bachelor's degree. You're looking at 56% of these occupations require at least a bachelor's degree. So again, that's something where that education is kind of going to represent a significant barrier to that career progression along this specific path. But again, you do see the substantial wage increase. Like I said, there may be a couple of roles in between here because you're looking at almost a doubling of the median salary between these two roles. And this is, again, what I wanted to focus on here is the breakdown of the skills comparability. And so you'll see that sales and marketing, where that was the big gap for moving from CSR to a sales rep. That is the top compatibility right here. You see that's the top skill that's in demand. There's strong compatibility also with just English, customer, personal relationships. That skill was cultivated from the CSR type role. And you'll see the gaps down here around clerical, education, and training. Again, we talked about that. That's really the biggest barrier here, which is just the heavy reliance on that bachelor's degree. So moving into this role is something that you see that education and training, having that bachelor's degree is just more likely to be required for this type of a role. We also just see personnel and human resources being more required. Again, we talked about that with the sales rep role, where more management type skills, just as that continues to grow, and an understanding of organizational, human resources, other operational type understandings in order to continue that career progression. And then also design as another key skill gap. So moving from just selling the product to being able to create assets and create the collateral to sell the product. And so again, I hope you enjoyed today's quick snapshot, just kind of a practical example on what skills-based career mapping looks like for specific occupations and specific skill sets. And we'll continue to promote this series.